Does Prince Harry live in a state of paranoia? And what does this tell us about what him and Meghan Markle are doing? Can we trust anything they say or do? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about the latest developments in another one of Prince Harry's cases. So this case is now against the Daily Mirror and a couple other newspapers. He is also suing, I believe, the Daily Mail over these phone hacking incidents that happened almost 15 years ago. Like the last one that they have some maybe evidence of happened in 2011. So that is 12 years ago, but most of this happened in the early to mid 2000s. And yet Harry is suing over this, and he has very much always said that he is doing this to help change how news journalism is done and making everything better for everyone. However, when you read some of his statements, basically he's talking all the time about his state of paranoia. And yes, some of that is fueled by the media for sure. However, is it really Harry who's the issue here? Not really the media. Does the media contribute to what's already going on in Harry's head? And therefore, can we even really trust anything he's trying to do? Or is he continuing to perpetuate this state of paranoia as it is fueled by Meghan Markle and her team, I think, to keep him in this state where he's really not working on himself. He's just constantly seeking a target for his rage rather than doing the really difficult thing, which is looking at yourself and wondering, well, maybe it's not the media, maybe it's not my family, maybe it's not social media, maybe it's not the world that's really the problem here. Perhaps everything, it really is on Harry, and Harry is the true source of a lot of his strife. And so I think this is a really interesting thing to go into, because as Harry puts the burden on basically the public and the media for all of the things that he's had to deal with, maybe at the end of the day, it wasn't the media that drove his girlfriends away. Maybe it was Harry. And his inability to recognize this means that Harry will continue on this endless litigation path, because he can't do the one thing he could do, the one thing that would change everything going on right now, which is to change himself and stop taking some hallucinogenics. That may help. So we'll go into this today. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes a little bit of gossip as well. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history too. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be great. I also have a weekly newsletter, Royal Wire. I have a fashion channel. I just did a couple videos, one about the look of coronation guests and also one looking at Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and her fashion during the coronation weekend. So if you're interested in any of those, I will link those down below as well. And finally, I also have an upcoming trip to Austria and Germany. So if you want to head across the ocean right in mid-September and just take a little bit time off work and enjoy touring some German and Austrian castles, we'll be even going to the place where they film The Sound of Music. There's like a lot of great things on this trip. I'd love to have you. It'll be gorgeous, amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to join me. So if you're interested, again, a link is there down below. And we also have Catherine and William. They attended a Buckingham Palace garden party for the first time this summer. And so we got to see Catherine rewear a look that she wore at Royal Ascot in 2019. And we're still getting some amazing videos from their social media team. And I really hope they keep this up. We had another one today because William gave away some honors, but as I understand it, some people are talking about how this person is just temporary. I hope they're full-time, because I think Catherine and William really need this fantastic branding and some of these videos that they're doing, because as the Prince and Princess of Wales, the future King and Queen, while they cannot completely overshadow Charles and Camilla, they really do need to establish their own brand. And so right now we're getting pictures with a particular style and color scheme. We're also getting videos in that way. And so I think that's something Catherine and William really need to continue. So I'm looking forward to that. We also have some sad news as well. Little Princess Leonor of Sweden. She actually lives in Florida with her mother, Princess Madeline of Sweden. She has broken her arm and requires a surgery. She is, I believe, 9. Maybe she just turned 10 this year. No, I believe she's 9. So I feel like that's really big because she's so little, and that's so sad. So anyways, guys, I just thought that was some interesting foreign royal news to go over here real quick. And I believe Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark is actually also in San Francisco. So yes, we have some foreign royals on our shores. I know that a lot of people just focus on the Brits, but there are so many other amazing royal families. And real quick, I'm just sharing this because I thought this was super, super cool. So I ordered this book, A History of English of the English coronations. And so this is it was like printed, I think, in the early 1900s. One of the few books on the English coronations. This was one of the first. There's a newer one that's come out by Rory Strong, and I guess he references this one quite a bit. But I was looking at it and seeing where it was from, and I thought this was super, super awesome. So if you can see in here, it says from the Canterbury Cathedral Library. So yes, so the Archbishop of Canterbury, who performs the coronation service, this is from his cathedral library. So apparently it was removed from circulation. I don't know if it was old, maybe they got the different version, maybe they got the updated version, what have you. But this was printed in 1937, so I just thought it would be super cool if this was printed and perhaps used by somebody who was part of perhaps the Queen's coronation team or even King George VI, and that they actually used some of this, or this was something checked out by some of the priests who were involved in it. I just find that super cool. It doesn't really have any markings on it, so probably not. But I just thought it was really cool that it was actually from the Canterbury Cathedral Library, where the Archbishop of Canterbury resides. So this may have been a book former Archbishops of Canterbury referenced. So anyways, I just thought that was fun. You never know where you're going to get a used book, and so I was just not expecting that because there are very few versions of this left. I think I actually had to pay a decent amount for this because there's just not that many in print anymore. Well, actually, there's nothing in print. You have to find used copies. So I think I got one of the last ones on Amazon. But anyways, I just thought that was super cool. But back to Harry's court case. Yes, the guy loves to sue. He is very litigious, him and his wife. They think that every problem can be resolved with litigation. I don't really think that's the case. Litigation, I think, is something that should be used sparingly because what it does is it also creates enemies and people just generally don't like you that much. In addition, it feels like Harry is doing all these court cases hoping at some point he gets something in return. So he's like, I'm paying my lawyers to pursue this court case, hoping at the end there's a pot of gold and I can recoup some of that money. Now, while that may not be a terrible way to go about it, at the same time, I feel like Meghan's case against the Mail, though she technically won, it was really a technicality. The government even thought about changing the laws that allowed her to win in that situation because really it was on a technical basis. In addition to the fact that really a lot of things came out that made Meghan Markle look bad. She said, well, I don't have these emails. I don't have these text messages. And what happened? Jason Knaff, who is part of Catherine Williams' team and was part of Harry and Meghan's team as their communication secretary, he had all those communications. So she claimed she didn't have them, yet he gave the court all these communications that showed that, yes, she had helped him draft her letter to her father, that she had done a couple drafts, asked him to look over it before she did all her fancy cursive to write out this long letter to her father. In addition, she also gave him a guideline of what she wanted him to discuss with Omid Scobie, who was the author of their biography, even though she said she really had no communications with Omid. So it raised a lot of questions about Meghan Markle's credibility. And I think even the court, if I remember right, was just like, yeah, we'll just let this go. We'll just give you the benefit of the doubt. But if somebody had really pushed this, this had been anybody else but a royal, she might have found herself in a lot of hot water. And Harry, again, is going down this route. He's suing over these phone hacking private investigation scandals that happened in the mid-2000s. So this has not been an issue for him and Meghan Markle. Yet, he is pulling together the quote-unquote abuse he feels like Meghan Markle suffered and equating it to the extreme measures that were sometimes utilized in the mid-2000s and early and 1990s as well to look into royals and other celebrities. So these two things are very separate. But in Harry's mind, I think this is one issue because they're like, if I've solved this thing that's no longer happening, that nobody's doing, then I will save my wife and my mother. And I feel justified somewhat in saying that because Harry, in his own words, tells us constantly how paranoid he is and how other people have told him, his own family members, that he is delusional and paranoid. So how much can we trust anything Harry is saying? Because what if all of this is fueled not by fact, not by the reality of what's happened in his life really, but by this state of paranoia he's constantly living in. And as this guy who's telling us all the time that he's going to therapy and he's getting better and everything like that, at the same time, it's like, Well, you seem to be in this state of constant paranoia. I think in his mind, Harry believes he has moved past this, but when you really think about it, I think the guy still lives in this constant state. And because of this, can we trust anything he tells us? Because if he's not dealing in reality, if he's not dealing in facts, if he's dealing in fantasy and delusions and paranoia, then basically we can dismiss a lot of what Harry and Meghan are saying about the media and the rest of the world. Yes, the media can be aggressive, but that is also their job. Their job is to go after the story. And sometimes, yeah, those tactics might be incorrect. As everybody acknowledges, the private investigators and the phone hacking was, nobody is saying this is a good thing. Nobody in any of these court cases have said, yeah, we totally agreed with this. This was a great thing. We're so proud of what we did. No, none of them are saying that. But Harry, in his mind, he's fixing things, not because make things better for you as a public. No. He wants to get rid of any naysayers to Meghan Markle. He wants to make them suffer because Harry is not only paranoid and delusional, he's also incredibly vindictive and spiteful. We see this also in the recent article, which I'll do a whole video on because there is some fascinating bits in there about Harry's book and his ghostwriter. And his ghostwriter also has a tenuous grasp of what facts is. Listening to one person's story and telling us that we can't fact check it is not accurate because the only side you're getting is Harry's. The only people he is allowing to talk to you are people who fundamentally completely agree with his side of the equation. You didn't talk to any of the royals, so you can't really say anything that you wrote is fact because fact is neutral. And Harry has his own perspective and his own narrative, which is fueled by delusions and paranoia. So can you trust, again, anything this guy is saying? And his ghostwriter not recognizing that really makes me doubt some of his credibility because anybody worth their salt knows if you're in especially the journalistic field. Now, granted, journalism has gone way off the rails recently. I firmly believe, at least in my channel, that I'm always going to state my bias, which is I'm not a fan of Harry and Meghan because I think they abuse the royal titles given to them, which I think damages the institution and I think damages the future of the monarchy in Great Britain. And I believe in tradition and culture and family, heritage, history, all things that Harry and Meghan seem to outright despise. And so I believe in pushing back, especially against some of their narratives and statements, which have been factually incorrect. And these are two people who could not even agree on the racist royal narrative. They had two separate stories about this in the Oprah Winfrey interview. So how can we believe what they said when even in their interview they contradict each other about a story they should both know by heart and be fully capable of giving most of the facts on? It's not just a little thing. Meghan said it happened several times while she was pregnant that somebody made comments. Harry said it was one time when they were initially dating. Those are two separate time periods, probably separated by about a year and a half. And once versus several times, those things don't equate at all. So let's get into some of these statements that Harry said, because again, this is all laying the foundation of this guy is somebody we cannot trust, not only to portray information accurately, but also that we can trust to change our media landscape in a productive way. So this is from the Times of London. It says, tabloid newspaper stories about the Duke of Sussex came from other members of the royal family, the High Court was told today. Harry claims he was the victim of unlawful information gathering by the publisher of the Daily Mirror between 1995 and 2011. He says the king and his mother Diana, Princess of Wales, were also targeted, as were former girlfriends, leading to huge bouts of depression and paranoia. Andrew Green, KC, representing Mirror Group newspapers, told the court the publisher unreservedly apologizes for the use of a private investigator for one story about Harry, but denies that 28 of a sample of 33 articles about the Duke involved unlawful activity. So Harry is making this broad claim that so much of what happened between 1995 and 2011 was the result of illegal activities basically by the newspapers, not reporting on things people told them or going out investigating and finding out various things. And I will agree, I used to read a lot of like Us Weekly, People Magazine, and Touch a lot in the early to mid 2000s. I used to get those magazines every Friday. and go and eat lunch at McDonald's. I kid you not. And that was just something that I did every day. I think I did it during the summer most of the time. And so, because I was just interested, I enjoyed kind of the celebrity culture. So I understand it was aggressive at that time. But the people who probably were the most impacted by this, who Harry is not really focusing on, are Catherine and William. Catherine and William received a lot of press attention. I think initially they found out that his nickname for her was Babykins was by hacking her voicemail. That's how they first found out that that was his nickname for Catherine was Babykins. And so you have this deeply invasive paparazzi thing going on, newspaper thing that's definitely happening at this time. We have so many pictures of Catherine being stalked, taking photographs as she's going to perhaps different nightclubs or just even getting out of her house. There's, of course, that famous video of 30 photographers camping out at her house on her 25th birthday, because that's what everybody wants, is to wake up on their 25th birthday and walk out to a sea of photographers that are going to blast your picture all over the world. That's what you want, right? That's what you want. And Catherine is able to maintain her dignified silence, but they were very aggressive in pursuing Catherine, like very, very aggressive. And yes, Chelsy dealt with that too, but I think Harry's forgetting once again that he is the spare and William is the heir. So William really was more of the focus of the media attention. Not that Harry wasn't, but William was oftentimes. But this idea that Harry struggled with paranoia and depression, I can understand that, because you don't know quite who to trust, because some of the information getting out is, you know for sure nobody should know but perhaps you and this other person. So this other person, they must have leaked it, right? But then you got to think, well, William went through the exact same thing, if not more intense. So why is he not suing? Why is he not living in a state of paranoia and depression? And I think it comes to the conclusion that Harry obviously has, I think, perhaps more mental health issues than William just in general. And also, William was able to deal with this more effectively than his brother was. And he was able to see that perhaps, yes, some people may not be telling the truth. Some people may be getting information, but I think William is just the more analytical person. And he's not such the emotionally driven person. So he was able, I think, to rise above the chaos rather than dwelling in it. And I think that's what Harry does. Harry dwells within this very negative, toxic sphere, which Meghan Markle has encouraged him to do. And because of this, I think we can't really trust Harry's version of events on essentially anything. We just can't trust it, because he's not living in the land of reality. He's living in this delusional and paranoid landscape, which, yes, is fueled by the media. But I think he is perhaps the bigger, if not the biggest, factor in this. Goes on to say, many came from information disclosed by or on behalf of royal households or members of the royal family, Green said in a written statement. One of the articles came from an on-the-record interview given by Harry. So Harry's claiming that all these articles were contributed. Okay. Harry is saying that all these articles were written under dubious means. And the newspaper is basically clapping back, going, we either heard it from royal household, your family directly, or yourself. You gave us the information. So how can you claim we got this information through dubious means when you were on the record? That's not really a question. But of course, you know, Harry, perhaps maybe he's hit his head a lot or something, or maybe he's taken too many drugs now and he just doesn't remember that situation. But again, his lawyer should have told him that. It just feels like there's so much hinkiness going on around here. And I do, to a certain extent, feel sorry for Harry, because I think a lot of people are taking advantage of a guy who is perhaps struggling mentally severely and nobody's helping him. They're just fueling it. So it goes on. The publisher admits that a private investigator was paid $75 by the People to gather information about Harry's conduct at China White, a celebrity nightclub in Soho, central London, in February 2004. So yes, oh, the shame, the terror of somebody asking what you did at a nightclub. And again, they'll probably ask other people. At this point, because of cell phones, when George and Charlotte are of that age, and perhaps they're going to nightclubs, they won't just have to worry about people spilling the beans for 75 pounds. No, they'll have to worry about camera phones, all these sorts of cameras that we have anymore. There's so much CCTV footage that you could track them anywhere. So we've even had this. Charlotte was going to a birthday party at this restaurant, and the restaurant sold the CCTV footage from their own restaurant of William arriving with his daughter. So that's something that they'll have to deal with now. So again, I don't think this is the end of the world. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's difficult, but that's part of the deal that's part of what it means to be royal, though. You get immense privilege, but yes, you live in a fishbowl. But again, like anything in life, there is a trade-off. Harry, yes, may have his freedom now, but now he also has to sing for his supper. So that means he has to trash on his family and then wonder why they're mad at him all the time and don't want to talk to him and don't want to be in private with him at all. I think it's a still epic mystery to him why none of this has gone very well for him. And then you have to do this Netflix show where you have to, again, share your whole perspective and then wonder why in the world it didn't go your way and people are making fun of you and you can't talk to your family anymore. None of your family wants to chat with you and you're there and it's this epic mystery to him. Again, cause and effect are a mystery to Harry and Meghan, particularly Harry. I think, again, he truly doesn't understand why his family won't come. Why won't they meet at the table with me? All I want them to do is meet at the table. I'm like, but they don't trust you because not only are you trying to throw them under the bus every chance you get, they also know you're delusional and paranoid and are easily manipulated. So guess what? They don't really want to meet with you because they cannot trust you enough to actually have a legitimate conversation with you. Goes on to say, Harry claims the alleged unlawful practices caused him huge distress and presented very real security concerns, not only for me, but also everyone around me. Also creating a huge amount of paranoia in his relationships, the court heard. Now, I found this rather interesting because Harry is angry that his relationships with Chelsy and Cressida fell apart. I think especially Chelsy. Chelsy, I think, is probably in a way very much the true love of his life. They had a lot of the same interests in Africa. They spent a lot of time there. They were, I think, young love. They were their first loves. And I think there was an amazing, to a certain extent, passion and relationship there. But what if Chelsy, not only was she dealing with the media, but what if she's dealing with a guy who is so paranoid about it that it's the third person in their relationship? Harry doesn't have a Camilla. He has the media in his relationship. And Chelsy at some point is like, you know what? Yes, the media is awful to deal with, but I could deal with it if you didn't obsess about it. If you could function and ignore the media presence, if you could protect me, figure out how we could get through this together. But no, Harry's paranoia ruined, I think, most of his relationships. And that's not on the media. Yes, the media fueled it, but a mature person is able to work through those things and figure it out because William was able to do that. William was able to do that. He didn't throw his now wife under the bus when the nickname Babykins came out. No, he trusted her. He had a relationship with her. If you have trust, if Harry really trusted Chelsy, would he believe that she had given information to the press? No, because he would live in a state of trust. Paranoia means you don't trust anybody to a certain extent, that you're so twisted about what's going on that you just can't trust anybody, rather than saying, I have to trust somebody. And I think that's what William did, even though I'm sure at some points he wondered about Kate, because I want to blame the guy every once in a while for going, I wonder if she's really in this for me or she's really in this for the crown. You know, don't fault him for wondering that. That's a natural human wonder. But he made the choice at some point, the mature choice to say, you know what, I'm going to trust Catherine. And even though sometimes little things may come out that I wonder, I know who she is. And I know myself and I know our relationship. So I am comfortable in that, knowing that I trust Catherine implicitly, and I know that she's trying to do the best for us, and she would never spill this secret or this information to the press unless somehow it went through a friend or something like that, and natural things happen. I think that is what Harry's missing in this equation. I think he blames everybody else for his paranoia, except for himself. He has to take some accountability here. If you are constantly living in a state of paranoia, that might be you. That might not be the rest of the world. It might be your issue now. So you need to deal with it. And I think I can't fault Chelsy or Cressida for saying not only is the media intensity awful, but you're kind of awful in reaction to it. I can't trust you. You'll attack me because you think I spread a rumor about you in the media. You'll go after me for that. And I know I didn't do it. And you should know, if we're in a relationship, that I didn't do that. You should know. And so I can't fault Chelsy or Cressida for saying, you know what? I might like you. I might even love you. I think especially in the incident of Chelsy, she might have really loved Harry, but she's like, you know what? I want to live a life of freedom, and giving up my freedom is not worth enough to live with you when you're not working on yourself. I think that's the decision Chelsy came to. And unfortunately, on the flip side, Meghan Markle, I think Harry has found somebody who fuels his paranoia. Whereas Chelsy would go, you know they didn't say that. You know that I wouldn't say that. You know that none of us would compromise you in this way. Meghan fuels all of it. Why do you think Harry's given up all his long-term friends? He says it's because of the media, but since he got together with Meghan, basically every childhood friend he's had for basically his whole life, especially those in the aristocratic set, which are tight, which generally don't blab on each other, he has no relationship with pretty much any of them now. So Meghan, I think, has done, instead of going into Harry and going, this is your issue, you need to figure this out, ignore the media, she is also fueled by the media. So she loves the media, and she loves, I think, churning Harry up about the reaction to her in the media. And then again, this fuels his paranoia and it fuels her narcissism, and they're kind of this toxic monsoon together, I think, in my opinion. MGN journalists even managed to book into a hotel in Bazaruto, a small island off the coast of Mozambique, where Harry was staying with his then girlfriend Chelsy Davy. MGN's activities led Ms. Davy to make the decision that royal life was not for her, which was incredibly upsetting for Harry at the time. Again, did Chelsy leave because of the media guy? I'm sure that didn't help. But if Harry was raging because the media guy was there, and Chelsy's like, well, let's just ignore this, Harry. Just forget about it. He's there. Let's just move on and just do our own thing. Well, then I think that's where the real rubber meets the road. And I think where she's like, I don't want to live with a guy who's just so consumed with what's going on in the media all the time, what they're saying about him, what they're saying about us. Let's just be us and ignore the noise, because it may be eventually the noise will simmer down and become white noise, become something we don't even think about. But Harry, I think the monster in their relationship wasn't the media, it was Harry's reaction to the media. So the media also caused their inner circle to become smaller and smaller, meaning that friendships were lost entirely unnecessarily and led to huge bouts of, again, depression and paranoia. He doesn't sound like a guy in a good headspace ever. You even still get that opinion reading through the ghostwriting piece that this guy is just, man, he struggles. And I feel sorry for him in a lot of ways. It also seems like for a guy who says all the time how much therapy he's in and how much therapy has helped him, I don't think it's helped him one lick. Because if you went through therapy, maybe you would recognize that it wasn't the media that made your girlfriends leave, it was you. It was you. Because if they truly loved him, which I think Chelsy did, I think she would have gone the distance with him, especially if he could make the choice to himself instead of Meghan Markle forcing and manipulating him into it to leave the royal family and live in Africa. Because I think they would have a blast. She now has a boutique travel company to Africa. She does boutique tours. She also has a jewelry line. So Chelsy Davy has really created her own world. She's a strong, independent woman, which Meghan Markle is not. And Harry has latched on to Meghan Markle and done everything she said. Because Hollywood and everything they're living now, it's not really Harry's dream, it's Meghan's. And at one point, once he wakes up and realizes what a catastrophic mistake he's made, oof, I'd hate to be in the house that day, because that would be a challenging day. And also, you got to think too, what if divorce is coming? Every time he says, my family says I'm delusional and paranoid, which he said in relation to his book earlier this year, Spare. What if he's saying this all the time? What if Meghan lists all the things going, well, he's delusional, he's paranoid, I can't trust him with the kids. I don't think Harry's ever thought of that. And he should, he really should, because none of this stuff makes him sound good. It doesn't. And what's really interesting is, who do they have to basically promote their side of the case? Why, it's Omid Scobie, the guy the media mockingly calls Meghan's friend. They call him Meghan's friend. Omid Scobie. They don't even care that he's a royal reporter. He's Meghan's friend. Nobody really with any real skin in the game or who understands royal stuff put any salt in what Omid Scobie says. He's a joke to pretty much everyone, except for himself. He's a joke. So he was the one who brought in the landmark evidence against Piers Morgan, even though obviously Omid Scobie makes money off the royal family, and he makes money most specifically off the backs of Harry and Meghan, because he is a little bit of their mouthpiece, although they've distanced themselves from him. And I said in one post on Twitter, which I still think is true, that he's desperately still trying to get back in their good graces because they no longer give him all these exclusives. So this is another attempt of him to go, yes, see, I'm on your side, I'm giving testimony. Because last time too, he was on the record saying they didn't cooperate when he probably knew they did. So again, Omid Scobie's testimony, I think it's suspect. So it says, Omid Scobie, a co-author of Finding Freedom, a book about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, claims as a journalism student, he spent a week at the showbiz desk of The People and was given a list of mobile telephone numbers and a verbal description of how to listen to voicemails, as if it was routine news gathering technique. Yeah, because when you have an intern, what you want them to do is do illegal things. I would think if anybody knows about the phone hacking stuff, it's high level or it's like a secret group. They're not giving this to news interns to listen to, most likely. Because what if the news interns leaked or figured out it was wrong and they could get a bunch of money off of it? I don't feel like you would give this to lowbrow people. I think the people who knew and did it kept it very much to themselves because they did know it was wrong. And you don't really want to broadcast that you're illegally tapping phones and give random news interns lists of telephone numbers and how to listen to voicemails. Yeah, I don't think that's what happened. He also claims to recall that while on work experience on the Daily Mirror's 3 a.m. showbiz column, the newspaper's then editor, Piers Morgan, asked how confident they were about a story relating to Kylie Minogue and her boyfriend James Gooding. The court heard. He was told that the information had come from voicemails, claims Scobie. And again, who's the target there? Well, it's Piers Morgan, the guy who basically told the entire world the day after Oprah Winfrey interview that Meghan Markle was lying. And I think most people who really first rather demonized him for that came around to his side. Unfortunately, the more Harry and Meghan talk, the less people like them. And because the less people like them, the less people trust them, the less people listen to them. And because of that, something like this, where Omid Scobie is clearly on Harry and Meghan's side, and they clearly hate Piers Morgan, what is he going to say other than exactly what they want him to say? Again, it's so suspect. Can you not get anybody but a guy who was there briefly, especially when it comes to like a work experience for a week or something like that? You're going to cite his word from probably in some cases almost 2 decades ago? Really? Does that really make your case all that strong? No, it doesn't. But again, the British legal system is weird because Meghan really should have lost her case. But because of this weird technicality they had written into the law, she won it. She didn't really win it because she won the case in terms of marriage. She just won on a technicality. Anyways, what does this tell us though about Harry? Harry is a guy, I think, who in many ways is completely confused about the world and how things work. He is completely confused why nobody in his family wants to talk to him. I think he still is very confused by that. Because he's like, well, I told them my truth. Because he mentions this in the ghostwriting article. I wanted to get my side out there. And I wanted to tell the world the truth. And what did the rest of the world do? They laughed in his face. Because we know pretty much the truth. Harry, at this point though, Harry and Meghan, they're always trying to craft a narrative. And that narrative is not based in fact. It's based on what Meghan Markle wants to achieve in that particular moment. And sometimes Harry. That's what they craft their narrative around, not the truth. Because you can poke a ton of holes in their Netflix documentary series. For example, Meghan was like, well, I'm so upset they did not let me be on the call when they're discussing Megxit. And as a wife, as a mother, I was not included in these calls that determine my life. Well, yeah, honey, because they couldn't trust you not to record it and utilize it against them. They're not stupid. Nobody's stupid here. But Harry and Meghan seem to constantly believe that the world is stupid to their antics. So they do them anyways. They wanted Meghan Markle completely off the continent before they even spoke to Harry. They've even gotten to the point where they won't even speak to Harry alone. Somebody else has to be with them because they cannot trust him to such an extent to even have a one-on-one conversation with the guy. And that again is based on his delusion and paranoia. This guy is so wrapped up in the twisted world him and Meghan Markle have created, is that he cannot even have a functional relationship with his family, or I'm sure with a lot of his friends, because the friends have to conform to the world Harry and Meghan have created for themselves. So For example, one of the interesting things is the day after the coronation, what does Meghan Markle do? She does a paparazzi stroll after a hike. I will say a couple things why I think it's a paparazzi stroll. Number one, no paparazzi in their right mind is hanging out on a mountain trail in Montecito unless they know somebody's going to be there. Montecito is a couple hours outside of LA. It shouldn't be that long, but with traffic, LA traffic is horrendous. Most paparazzi are in LA. Why would you travel all the way over to Montecito unless you have confirmed sighting of a royal? She's also wearing all her jewelry, including her pretentious pinky ring that is many consider a blood diamond because she got it probably from the Saudis, even though they murdered a journalist, and she knew exactly what she was wearing when she wore those diamond earrings in Fiji, and she still wears this really pretentious pinky ring that's like a couple of carats. I think the ring is actually more carats than her even own engagement ring. And, 6 figures worth of jewelry to go on a hike, but she's there with Marcus Anderson. So Marcus Anderson was kind of her setup guy at Soho House. And so you just look at all this and go, they're all feeding off each other and into each other. And Meghan Markle, I think, only can interact with people who are her same ilk. That's why her and Catherine could never mesh. Catherine, I think, is a very genuine person. Meghan Markle is not. And if you're not desperately trying to get ahead, like Meghan Markle is and all her friends are, then you cannot be friends because it just simply doesn't work. You're not selfish enough to be friends with Meghan Markle. And Meghan Markle can't really be friends with anyone who isn't as selfish as she is because everybody is technically using each other to get ahead in some way or another in whatever field they're in. That's how all this works. It's basically a lot of backdealing and those sorts of things. So in that state, Harry is living in this state where he's constantly told, well, the media is after you and they're looking into you. And it's like, yeah, but did you ever take a step back and think that maybe, just maybe, the more you sue the media, the more the media wants to look into you? Shocking! I know that's so hard. That's so hard to imagine. Because once you've made enemies in the media, which Harry and Meghan did from the jump, with that statement basically calling them all racist, even though it was a couple of fringe articles that you could say were racist, everything else was not. Then the media, after a while, especially once they've been lied to, like they were lied to about when Meghan gave birth, they were told she was in labor when she had already given birth. When you've made the relationship incredibly difficult, you sassed them. Harry sassed and snapped back at a royal reporter, just asking him a question going, you don't have the right to ask that of me, or something to that effect. It was very condescending, very rude. They've been rude to the media constantly. So is it any wonder, you geniuses, that the media constantly goes after you because you have made yourself their target? Because once the media smells blood in the water, they go after it. There's a lot of blood around Harry and Meghan. Not real blood, but you get it, my analogy. There's a lot of questions, a lot of things that people are wondering about. That's why this French company went up to their offices supposedly in Archwell to check it out and see what was going on. People are curious because Harry and Meghan, their other big flaw is the paranoia fuels this need to unnecessarily control the media. So they constantly want to control the narrative, and the narrative then always goes off the rails. And then they're wondering what the heck happened. I feel like every time things don't go right, Harry and Meghan are going, well, what happened? It's like, well, it's not that hard. You've made it so appallingly clear how much you hate everyone and all the media. The media now is a lot interested in what's actually going on behind the scenes because you're giving them half information, false information. You're trying to craft the narrative constantly that it's resulting in this negative reaction. So Prince Harry, at the end of the day, can we trust anything this guy says? I don't really think so. I think until Harry acknowledges that yes, he might be contributing a huge portion of his own negative press, if he can acknowledge that perhaps some of the paranoia was self-inflicted and really was his own perhaps mental illnesses, you could say, or issues that are clouding his judgment, I don't think we can put a lot of credence in what anything Harry and Meghan say because they don't really deal in facts, they deal in narratives. And the narrative changes to whatever suits them at that particular moment. And there's a lot of danger there if you're not aware of what they're doing. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Harry's latest court case and his inability to understand that action might result in reaction that you don't like. Why is that such a mystery to them? I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts on that though, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys again really, really soon. Bye.